Let me now introduce you to the Mozart system, which we'll be using throughout the course. So here I've started Mozart. It runs using an Emacs editor. Here it's in the Mac using Aquamax. It also runs on Windows and Linux. So this window here has two panes. So there's the Oz pane, which you can write pieces of Oz code and execute them. And then there's the compiler emulator pane, which you can see what the compiler and the emulator have been up to. So let me type a small code fragment, browse of 11 times 11, and execute it. So I select this, then I go to the Oz menu, I do feed region, which is the yellow selected area. This executes this, and the browser is open. The browser is a tool that lets you display the results of computations. So let me change the font size, make it a little bigger. So the 121 here. So let me explain how this works. So browse is a one-argument procedure. The braces here surround all procedure calls and function calls. Why do we use braces and not parentheses? Well, Oz is a multi-paradigm language. It contains many programming concepts that coexist together in the same language. So it's carefully designed so that these concepts do not interfere with each other. So the parenthesis is already used for data structures, for tuples and records. So we use the braces for procedures and functions here. The name here of this procedure browse starts with a capital letter. So this will always be the case. And here we have the expression 11 times 11. Let me now do something else. X is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4 times 5, 6, 7, 8, and then browse X. So here I've done something a little bit more sophisticated. So I select this region and I execute it. Here's the result, 7,006,652. Now what I've done here is I've declared a variable, right? But let's be more precise. In fact, it's not a variable. Let's be exactly precise what happened. So X here is a character string. It can have more than one letter. Here it has only one. X starts with a capital letter. This is always going to be the case in Mozart. And this is called an identifier. And somehow this identifier X corresponds to the result of this calculation. So what actually happens is that there are three concepts here. There is the identifier. This is what you type in. There is a variable in memory which you cannot see but which exists, and then there is a link between the two. So this identifier X is somehow linked to a variable in memory which is bound to the value of this computation. This link is a very important concept. It's called an environment, and technically it's a function. It's a function that takes an identifier as input and returns a variable in memory. Now this is not a function you can program with. It's a function that we use conceptually to understand how programs are done. So in fact it's part of the semantics. Now we can use the X now. As long as we have not redeclared it, we can use the X. Let me now use another command. Instead of doing feed region, we have different ways of feeding text here. We have feed buffer, feed region, feed line, and feed paragraph. So here we have a single line, so I press the control and then I do .L for line, and this will feed the line. I can also feed a paragraph. A paragraph is a set of non-empty lines with an empty line before and an empty line after, or I can feed the buffer. The buffer is all of the text. So once we do this, we can do computations with X until we redefine X. And now let's go into a little bit more detail about how we rigorously define these concepts.